Good evening, welcome to Liverpool's Great Games. It's me, Chris Brack, it's him, Kev O'Sullivan, and we are sponsored by bookmakers.com. They are bookmakers and they give you all the best odds. All the details are in the description below. Kev, how you doing?
Oh, good. Not too bad. It's been a while since we've been on, so
I know.
To be honest, it would be lovely if we were on and a load of stuff had happened in the week, but nah, not a lot. It's all been quiet.
Well, nothing's happened in the football world anyway. But
there is that.
There is that, but yeah, it's been a quiet. But I'll be honest, it's always quiet this time of year.
Yeah,
you don't see loads of my stuff early on. You know, everyone wants all done early, but very few deals are done this early in the window. Very, very few.
Yeah, there's some bits and bobs. Some bits and bobs have been happening. Look, we'll get onto it in the second half of the show. There's going to be plenty of gossip to be chatting about and getting on with, but to be honest, we asked the guys in the chat last time we were doing a game, what ones do you want to talk about? And this one was one of the first ones to come up. And it was the 1987-88 season. Liverpool 5, Nottingham Forest 0. And
to put this into context, no spoilers for this, but when this game was being played, I was 4. So my memory of this is I don't have one. I have seen the goals because we've talked about them. I've looked at the goals, the very nice goals. I'm going to let you drive this because, quite frankly, mate, I can't tell you much about it other than I've seen the goals on YouTube, and I know Forest. I know Forest were a good. Yeah, Forest were a very good side around them, and Liverpool were in a bit, like you said, were a bit of a transition, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, you were only 4. I was what
42.
72, 82, and 5. I was 15 and we just immigrated to America. So in this season, I literally never saw a damn thing. Nothing. When I was living over there at that time, obviously no internet, but there was no media coverage of football at all. There was nothing in the newspapers. There was nothing on TV or radio or anything. So the only thing you used to get was the Sunday papers had the football results in it. So I used to scour them for that. And at the time, I remember seeing this result and thinking, wow, that's big. Because before I'd left, right the way through the 80s, really, Nottingham Forest and Liverpool were 2 of the best footballing sides in the country. And whenever they played, it was always a proper football game. You know, proper passing. It was very rare you'd have the ball launched in the air, you know, playing like, you know, Wimbledon-style football or traditional 80s-style football, really. It wasn't about. And when Liverpool Forest played, it generally turned up into good football matches. And this one was arguably the best of the lot from our perspective because...
I mean, to put it into context, we had a quick look at the fixture list, thinking like, I'm sure the players were quite close together. From the 2nd of April, Liverpool played Forest at Forest Ground in the league, got beat 2-1, only their, at the time, 3rd defeat of the season. They then... And on the 4th of April, drew 3-3 at Anfield against United. Then the 9th of April, we knocked Forest out of the FA Cup semi-final. And then on the 13th, we had this game. So we basically played Forest 3 times in 11 days.
Yeah.
Which is, again, a bit of a weird quirk because you don't see things like that very often.
You don't, but what you also have to remember, I think at the time, the first division had, was it 20, did it have 22 sides or 24 sides, something like that?
Something like that.
And the fixtures were genuinely were randomized, not like today where they're picked with
21 teams. 21 teams with 40 games.
Yeah, so
I mean, to put this 40 games, Jesus wept.
And then you had the League Cup, you had the Europe. Well, we would have had the European Cup, and you would have had the FA Cup on top of that. So players playing 50 plus games in an era where there was only
2 subs.
No, 2 subs. So you can imagine how fit these guys, and they were drinking the back off it as well. Like, you know, these guys were living their best life. You know, as spoiled footballers with a city at their feet, money in their pocket to burn. But it was mental. But I'm just looking at the lineups for this one, right? You have Bruce Grobbelaar on goal. Then you had Gary Gillespie, Gary Ablett, Steve Nicol, Nigel Spatman. Alan Hansen was captain on the day. And then you had Peter Beardsley, John Aldridge, Ray Houghton, John Barnes, Steve McMahon. And on the bench, we had Craig Johnston and Jan Mulby. And Doug Leash was the manager at the time as well.
What's the bad side? Not a bad side, that really, is it?
It was a really good side. And the thing is, it was, when you think about it, they were transitioning away from they changed the fullbacks. They'd gone away from Mark Lawrenson as a centre-back partner for Alan Hansen. They were changing midfield as well with Steve McMahon coming in. You had John Aldridge playing up front. It was new. You just signed Peter Beardsley and John Barnes were all new to the club.
The John Barnes setup for the, I think, is it the Aldridge goal is ridiculous.
Outrageous, isn't it? But looking at the Forest side, you have Steve Sutton in goal, Steve Chettle, Stuart Pearce, Des Walker, Colin Foster, Terry Wilson,
Clough,
Gary Crosby, Neil Webb, Nigel Clough, Lee Glover, and Brian Rice. And
sorry, it's the Beardsley goal he sets up. Sorry, Barnes, not the Aldridge. I'm getting myself mixed up.
And the thing is, it was one of those games. It's like with the other game that we're going to talk about later on. The keepers in this game. Liverpool were majestic in this game. Tom Finney said it was the single best performance he'd ever seen in his entire life of watching and playing football. And Tom Finney had literally seen everything from 50s right the way through Brazil in the 70s, the Ajax sides of the mid-70s with Cruyff, all the way through the 80s. And he said this one game, this performance, he said, was the single best performance from a football side that he had ever seen in his life. And when you go back and watch the goals in this game, and you watch some of the saves that Sutton made, it was 5-0 on the day, but it could arguably easily have been 8 or 9. And this was no mug side that Forest on the day. They were a good side, and it started off. The first goal, John Barnes for Ray Houghton. It was a quick 1-2 in the edge of the box, and Houghton just took a touch and chipped the keeper coming out onto him. And it was almost a case, because we were only, at the time, I think we were 4 points away. We needed 4 points to win the league. And they'd just beaten us a few days beforehand. Yeah, we beat them in the cup, but they'd turned us over in the league. So you're at that time of the season, you know what I mean, where it's really nervy. And if anything's going to go wrong, it's getting over the line type of season. Yeah, it's the hard yards. And we watched the highlights of this before the game, before we come on. And for how good the goals were, some of the play, the interplay, and the efforts that they missed was just as good. It was just sublime football. John Aldridge for the second goal. Peter Beardsley picked him out from inside his own half with a slide rule pass with his right foot into his run. All Aldridge did really was he waited for Sutton to come out to rush out, and Aldridge chipped him from probably about a yard inside the penalty box and made it 2-0. And we're going in at 2-0 at half time, and it could have been 5 then. And come out the second half, Gary Gillespie gets a third, and he does that celebration where he's like pointing towards the Anfield Road end. It's a pretty famous picture if you see it. It's you recognize it straight away when you see it. Peter Beardsley scored the fourth off John Barnes cutting in off the wing. He nutmegged Steve Chettle, evaded Crosley with a slide tackle, and cut it back to the edge of the box, and Beardsley slid it in. But for me, the fifth goal was outrageous. It was John Aldridge scored it, but it was all made with Peter Beardsley laid on a ball to Nigel Spatman. Spatman then just cut it across to Aldridge to tap it in. It was just a brilliant football goal. It was just sublime football all the way through. And for me, looking back, I enjoyed that one. I've watched that game back now, I'd say about half a dozen times today. Just watching the goals and just watching the bits and bobs of the game. The disturbing thing for me watching that, highlights of that, was seeing the fences around the ground. Because this was all pre-Hillsborough. This was all before anything happened. It was a chilling reminder as to where we were as a club and how good we were, but what was coming. You know, it was just one of those. But I also saw a picture. I don't know if any of you guys are on Twitter and you saw it. It was a picture of Anfield in 1989 to Anfield today. And when you look back at Anfield then, it was, I think the attendance for that game was something like 38, 39,000, something like that. And when it's finished, it's going to be 61,000. And, you know, it's still in the same spot. Unlike an awful lot of other clubs who've built their grounds up and up and up, then moved, they've had to move because they can only do so much. We're still in the same place. And I'd encourage anyone, go back and just type in Liverpool 5, Nottingham Forest 0. There's extended highlights on there. I think they're about 8-10 minutes long. Just sit back. The commentary is brilliant as well. The commentary is absolutely brilliant. Just sit down and enjoy it. And it's just some fantastic football. We were really good. And that was the year we lost the FA Cup final to Wimbledon.
Yeah, thanks, that Kev.
We've done everything. We done everything. And, you know, what was it? What was that line? The Culture Club.
It's the crazy gang.
The crazy gang beat the Culture Club.
Yeah. I mean, listen, and another thing, Kenny Dalglish has a few more doubles under his belt. You know, he's a little unlucky at a few doubles. Yeah, I mean, when you think about what Anfield looks like, so I remember going to Anfield in '94. That was my first game in the Cop. But when you looked at what the Anfield Road end looked like back then, it's all different colour seats.
Yeah,
all random, like orange section, yellow section,
orange, yellow, green, blue.
Yeah, there's all one. It was one tier then, but you think when you're back then thinking that looks shit. Why?
It didn't matter. It was pre-TV era, wasn't it? It was the pre-TV era.
But at the time, you're thinking like, but yeah, why didn't you do all the seats red? It's only been cheaper to buy a load of red seats that do different colours. It's like they got a deal for bits.
The other thing, the kit, the Liverpool kit back then. It was crown paints. It was red with the white pinstripe. Yeah. It was shorts from short shorts town.
I think I've got one of those. I think I've got that as a retro shirt from the Liverpool shop. I like that kit.
It is a proper kit. I love that one, but I love that one in white. I think that one in white is a beautiful kit. Go back and watch it. Enjoy it.
Not keen on the shorts. I'm going to be honest. The shorts is a bit of a no-no.
Yeah,
nobody wants to see
that. Surprisingly, that season as well, Everton did the double over Liverpool that season.
Yeah.
So we lost to Everton twice. We lost to Forest a week and a half before we beat them, and then we lost to Wimbledon in the cup final. And when you think about the volume of games that were played in that season, that's mad. Yeah, that is absolutely insane. With everything that went with it, the fact that you were playing on heavy pitches, you were playing. I think the only advantage was it wasn't a World Cup. It wasn't a year that led into a World Cup. But at the end of that season, it ran into the Euros. The 1988 European Championships were at the end of that season. So as Ireland were sat there, we were looking at, we had Ray Houghton, we had Ronnie Whelan, you had John Aldridge, you had all of these players playing for top clubs. You know, with Liverpool, and we had players playing in the top clubs in Europe. And that was our first time going to a tournament, was in the 88 in Germany. And who put the ball in the England net? So was the song that went out. There's a brilliant video of that as well. Ray Houghton in the back of the car. I did.
Yeah. So let's move on then. So we're going to go to 10th of March 2009. And it is the Champions League first knockout round, second leg, Liverpool versus Real Madrid. So a bit of background. 2 weeks early to this, Liverpool had gone to the Bernabeu, won 1-0 with a Yossi Benayoun header. You know, classic goal. And in the away leg, I think Gerrard plays about 3 minutes because he's coming back from injury, so he doesn't really play. And as was Liverpool's way, we then go and lose to Middlesbrough 2-0 because, you know, beat Real Madrid, you may as well lose to Middlesbrough because we always lost to fucking Middlesbrough. I hated playing Middlesbrough. There were no sides. As a side, I never want to come back up because it's too rubbish against
mad, isn't it?
Yeah, we beat Sunderland, and then so we came to this game. I was lucky to be at this game. So you went in thinking like, keep this tight, see how it goes. But I mean, the Liverpool side at the time, Pepe Reina in goal. Then the fullbacks were Arbeloa and Aurelio, Carragher and Skirtle as the two. And then we had Steven Gerrard, Xavi Alonso, Javier Mascherano, Babel, Torres, Kaut. So in this, Babel's left, Kaut was right, and Gerrard was in his free roll behind Torres. So, I mean, this is...
When you look at that, that's a really good side, to be fair.
Yeah. Where Liverpool struggled, and this is what ultimately why they didn't win the league, was the bench is Diego Carvalho's backup goalkeeper, Desena, Sammy Hippier, young Martin Kelly, Lucas Leiva, who's very young also now, Jay Spearing and David Ngo. That was the bench. There was no Josip Anier. I think he was injured for this one. Albert Riera wasn't available, and Albert Riera, actually, this is his first year, but actually did quite well for Liverpool. But I mean, Liverpool this year, to put it into context, finished second on 86 points to United side that got 90. And I would say Liverpool were lucky in terms of, I think that was the best Ferguson era side. I think the 08-09 going into the 09-10 period, I think that was his greatest squad that he ever built. I think it pisses over the 99 side.
Was that the front three that he had Tevez,
Rooney, Ronaldo. Back four was like Evra, Neville, Vidic, Ferdinand. Carrick was playing for him. It was a very workman-like midfield, but either end was Van der Sar in goal. It was just exquisite.
Ridiculous, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was ridiculous.
So that's what you call it. Okay, so you saw Liverpool bring on David Ngog to try and win a game, and they're bringing on Burbs off. It's just like it's like a different game, isn't it?
It is. But you were there.
Madrid side was good. Like we were. I must admit, when we won there. I know the one that won over there. You were ecstatic, thinking, "Fucking hell, winning there!" Because this Madrid side had Robben, it had Raul at his peak, Gago, who was a decent player, Carvalho, Gabriel Heinze, Iker Casillas was probably at the time the best keeper in the world, comfortably,
easily.
This is the side they picked. So Iker Casillas in goal, Pepe, Ramos, and this one Ramos played right back. Carvalho, Heinze, Diarra, Gago, Schneider, Raul, Robben, Higuain, and they brought on a young Marcelo who played for ages for a young Rafael van der Vaart and Guti. They're the players they brought on. That was what they had. This is. Will it go down to the greatest Real Madrid side? No, it's a fucking good one though.
But it was a good one. It was a good one.
So you were thinking like, Jesus Christ, let's see. So typical way we played under Rafa, all we were thinking was do a fast start, because Liverpool's tactic in Europe when the Rafa was hit him in the first 20 and see what happens. And Torres does the best Cruyff turn you've ever seen to get a shot off. And the save from Iker Casillas, which we'll be saying quite a lot in this game, is with his feet was brilliant. You're thinking, okay, that's a bit of intensity.
That turn was done on Fabio Cannavaro. And we were discussing before we came on. Fabio Cannavaro at the time, I think, was either nominated or he won World Player of the Year.
Yeah, he was ridiculous.
He was hands down the best centre back in the world, and he was 5'8". But Torres left him on a sixpence. But when you look at the Real Madrid side and the fact that we had Torres and Xavi Alonso, Spain were a year away from winning the World Cup. So these players that were in both sides were on the verge of becoming one of the greatest World Cup sides ever. So they weren't Mickey Mouse players.
This is the Euros that they won, because it's what England. This would England qualify the Wally of the Barley.
Yeah.
All that came later.
Yeah, they were about to go in 2010, and it was all about to start for Spain. It was like
the Liverpool kit. Do you remember the Adidas one, the little V-neck?
Lovely kit.
I said to you, for some reason, the European numbers, which the Adidas style they just look better. I don't know what it is. Just something about it. I always liked the kits around that era anyway. I think they were nice. They were nice. It's just we didn't win anything under them to make them iconic. They just became the nice kits, but they're not iconic because nothing came of it. So, I mean, from the leading corner, the ball is cleared out. It falls to Mascherano on the half volley, and he just cracks it, and
he cracked it, man.
Iker tips it onto the bar, and it's like it was so funny because Mascherano, I think he only scored one goal two. He was given the derby one, which was the biggest own goal you've ever seen in your life. But it's just like, where's that come from? Because I was sat in the old main stand, so more the Annie Road end. So as he hits it, Arsenal were up thinking that's in, and the save again. You felt, and this is what you're only 10 minutes in, you're going like, well, that great chance here, but fucking hell, the keeper's on one, isn't he? Oh yeah, no, this is not.
We've all seen games like that at Liverpool where the keeper has the game of his life, and they nick it. Because away goals counted, so we were 1-up. They had to come and get 2. And that was a forward line with Madrid. We had Raul, Higuain, you had Robin, you had Snyder. They were all capable of a bit of magic.
So let's talk about the first goal, because you'd be disagreeing this, because we've said the first and second goal. Well, the second goal will definitely be ruled out today. The first goal, I think, because of who it is, they get away with it. So ball comes over, it bounces. Now I think Pepe's just trying to it's a bounce, we can volley it clear. And there's a slight tug on his shoulder from. Now I don't think it's enough for him to go down the way he does, but you may have both said, and you're normally a little touch, you're done for really. Ball falls to Cow, pass it back, and Torres goes and he turns to see if it's been given. As soon as it's given, he's showing his shirt to the Real Madrid fans, Atletico player. He never scored against Real Madrid until then. So, and Torres was up for this. This was like, just like when Origi sees Everton. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, he just goes, I hate these. I'm going to make sure they all know I hate them as well.
But the best of it was for Fernando Torres at the time. Raul and I think Morientes were probably ahead of him for Spain. So David Villa was about as well. So he wasn't first choice for Spain. So this was
because Raul doesn't make the Euro squad. Because I remember at the time it was a big hoo-ha, wasn't it? Saying like, how's Raul not a squad? And there was pressure on David Villa and Torres, which is like, well, these two better do something, because how can you leave Raul out? And it was like, his time was done.
But he was outstanding in this game. He was really, really good. And I think that today's game with VAR, I think the pull on his shoulder was so blatant and it led directly to a goal. I think VAR would intervene and it possibly could get chalked off. But
then a few minutes later, though, he gets the ball again, leaves the defender for dead, cuts it back. Gerrard on the half volley, and unfortunately, he's just right at Casillas going like, "Oh, just get the second." You're praying for the second,
and that was it.
Because I think at the time you were like, it really was next goal win. Next goal's the key. Liverpool go 2-0 up, 3-0 aggregate. That's it. It's game over. If they get one back, that's when the nerves start kicking in. And Arbeloa wins a penalty. Now in the ground, it looks like Heinzer just stuck his arm out and punched it, and just had an absolute brain fart. When you watch it back, it's the worst decision.
Point of his shoulder.
Point of his shoulder. It's a weird motion because he does that like he's trying to throw a punch, which is probably what does him. But when you watch the replay back, Arbeloa doesn't even react. No. He just hits, because I think it's not even one you think, oh, it's close, I'll shout for it, which, let's be honest, footballers will shout for anything. Arbeloa doesn't even shout, and Arbeloa wasn't a shrinking violet for shouting for penalties.
It was never a penalty in a month of Sundays. No. But you got to think, ex-Manchester United player, it just, when things are written in the stars.
Oh, it was funny. Also, we tried to buy him.
We tried to buy him, yeah. And Ferguson wouldn't sell him to us.
Ferguson said he'd never sell anyone to Liverpool. He also said he'd never sell a virus to Real Madrid, and then he sold the Gabriel Heinze. So, he's a great manager, Ferguson, but he was full of shit at times.
He was, yeah.
But Steven Gerrard did what Steven Gerrard did, just absolutely nailed the penalty. Keeper's nowhere near it, and it went off in the main stand then, because you're pretty much going like, we're through. This is done.
Yeah. At the time, Liverpool didn't concede volumes of goals. It was the odd goal in the games here and there. We were misers at the back. But, at 2-0, they had to get back. They had to get 3.
The killer. The only killer in the whole game was Mascherano not going to get a booking. Yeah. And spoilers, we get beat 3-1 at home to Chelsea. I'll be honest, we were looking to get away with 3-1, whereas I was at that game, we were horrendously outplayed.
Yeah.
But you saw the miss. That was like that was the game you needed Mascherano, and it was a bit of a silly booking. It wasn't really anything he needed to do really, but he couldn't turn that side of his game off, unfortunately. But then they have a free kick. I think Schneider's about good 30 yards from goal.
30 yards.
And he just goes, and he's always like, I think he'd had enough. I was going to hit this. And it's some save by Pepe Reina, because I think he had nothing to do all game, and then he got woke up by that, which I think for all of them settles down going, oh yeah, these are still mightily dangerous. We need to keep an eye on these.
And all the while, Casillas was making save after save after save.
It's generally not. Generally, people say, "Oh, it could have been 5, could have been 6." It generally could have been. The second half, especially, he pulls off 2 world-class saves, especially the Torres one. With I think it was 3-0 at the time. Torres tries to bend it, and it was the classic Torres where he just cuts inside, bends it to the opposite corner, and he still tipped it. And you're just going, it was unreal. I mean, the goal of the game was the third one, because you're like, right, second half, right, come out, let's just keep it tight, nothing silly. Look for the break. Ryan Babel just bursts past Ramos like he's not there, cuts it back, it bounces up awkwardly, probably like shin height. Gerrard controlled volley like a bullet, top corner, near post, game over. And it's it is one of the great Gerrard goals, that because those goals always look better when the keeper's like mid-air, trying to save. You just think like it's just pure power. And that was it then. He was going, this is game over. I mean, it was so much fun that Jay Spearing got to make his European debut, I think. We threw Toussaint on left wing because for chits and giggles, why not? That's how it got to in the end. And I think Lucas came on the hour mark for Xavi Alonso, and Lucas was only about 20, 21 at this point.
20, 21 or something like that, yeah.
So it's really young midfield. I do remember with Jay Spearing, the whole crowd was just kind of wanted Jay Spearing to score just because he's a scouser. Yeah. And we started booing players who didn't pass it to him to let him shoot, just for shit to get. Because you sat there with Real Madrid going, we're 4-0 up, we're 4-0 up on aggregate, this is great, this is easy. Annoyingly, that's the last time we've ever beaten Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, since we played there.
I mean, the thing is, it's a shame, really, that Liverpool side
didn't win something.
You can't. Yeah, they didn't win something and it literally, look, Manchester United were just that good. It wasn't a case of Liverpool were shite or anything. To chalk up 86 points back then in the league is no mean feat.
The squad depth killed them. That was the thing.
Squad depth killed them, yeah. 100%.
We were still relying on Ngog and Nabil El Zahar. Remember him? Nabil El Zahar. Yeah, that's what we're relying on.
Laszlo makes a point there. Prime Torres is one of the greatest sights in a Liverpool shirt. Yeah, for 18 months, Fernando Torres was lethal. For 18 months, he was absolutely lethal. But he never got that back. He never got that back.
But going back to what we've got today, and Salah. Salah's been at that peak for 6 years. And I think that's something. I think sometimes it's overlooked. As shit as Liverpool were last year, and let's be honest, Kev, we did enough post shots to take this shit.
Yeah,
he's still banging 30 goals at a side that, let's be honest, just didn't function until probably the last 10 games, and he still banged in 30 goals in all comps.
The thing is, as a club, we still scored over 100 goals. You know what I mean? So when people start,
though, David Villa, who was also some striker.
Oh yeah. They were actually an ideal partnership when you think about it. That they had Xabi Alonso in the 6th role with Iniesta and Xavi unlocking defenses. It was they'd taken the Barcelona tiki-taka football into Spain. And they finally worked out a way for Real Madrid and Barcelona players to get along. And they were, for probably 6 years, they were the best footballing side in the world, bar none, that you would go out of your way to watch.
But unlike the current side, that's dominance with 115 charges, they're also quite fun to watch.
They were good to watch.
You actually... I actually quite enjoy watching it. It's not dull. I do find that style of football that we watch at the moment quite dull.
Spain were a good side to watch back then.
Yeah, I mean, just think under Hicks and Gillette, the talk was at the time before the whole crash came and they had and all the money disappeared. Liverpool had lined up after this summer. The rumour was David Villa, David Silva, and Jovetic. They were the three big sides that had lined up, and because of all the money from the banking crash, we ended up with Kyriakos. Not quite the same.
No, not on a par. You could say definitely not. But
Thor makes a good point as well. Ryan Babel had so much talent, and he did. It was a proper coup when we got Ryan Babel because I remember he was linked to Arsenal. This at the under-21. I remember watching England play when he was playing for the Dutch under-21s. And when we got him, we were like, "Wow, this is a coup!" Because
was that the final? Was that the under-21 final that England got to? It was decided on penalties.
Went to penalties. That everyone took a penalty and had to start again.
I think it was Stephen Taylor. Was at Newcastle. Remember him, centre back.
Couldn't walk because I think he'd done his hamstring, and they were kicking off saying, "Well, he can't take a penalty." And said, "Well, you forfeit then." So he had to hobble up, barely stand. He scored, and then we're pretty much like, "That's me done." I think I put him out for quite a bit of while though. But Ryan Babel, because at this time people mock Wenger now. This was peak Wenger when Wenger was always finding these random lads. You're going,
gems,
who's this 16-year-old fabric something we've got? And you guys, it's Fabregas. He'd find loads of them.
Nicholas Anelka.
Yeah,
Patrick Vieira out of nowhere. Patrick Vieira he plucked him out of AC Milan where he wasn't getting a game. 3.5 million.
Diaby was actually Diaby was a really good player. Just unfortunate injuries. Kolo Torre. I found when he first got Kolo Torre, he was playing a wing for shits and giggles before he came a centre half. that's what. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember that Kolo Torre played a wing, which was hilarious. But Kanu, this one then would find Kanu, and then go like, who's this? And then you're like, oh my god. So when we got him over a bit of a one over Wenger, you were thinking like, shit, he must be good because if Wenger wants him, he must be good because Wenger could spot a young talent. That was one of his gifts. It just never quite clicked for him. He had games when he was brilliant. It just didn't quite click.
I think Ryan Babel's problem was always between his ears. It was it wasn't ability. It was a mental switch in his game that if he had the right manager at the time to get the tune out of him, he could have been top chair. As it stood, it was probably just allowed to drift, and his career drifted after he left us.
Babel would do well today. Today's style of football would actually suit him as a winger.
Yeah.
So, as Thor's pointed out, Salah, now, mate, it's just another card. I swear I'm never getting over it. Oh, that journalist, she's never got over it. Listen, we all make bad calls. We've all done it, but that one was particularly wild because when she said, and the same journalist, you always doubles down on something. He says like, yeah, but he's no Hazard because what's he ever done to win a big game? You go like, he's just scored he's just scored in the European Cup final, And I think our excuse at the time was he hasn't done it in a big semi-final though, has he? Which I thought, well, the final's probably better. That's like, and then go on. Didn't he bang 2 against Roma where he made Alisson look average, which is taking some doing to make him look average? Like, I think sometimes you have to hold your head. I got that wrong.
Yeah, the thing is,
I always admit it. Mine's Joe Matip, and you often bring it up today. I got Joe Matip miles wrong. I thought he was crap until he got that run to the lead up to the Champions League. Because I always thought he was easy to dominate, and I got that completely wrong. Quite happy.
I can safely say that
you've got a few.
Not one person got called Salah right. Nobody, because nobody saw this coming.
Well, interestingly. John Gibbons of the Anfield rap fame talks about one of his shows saying he met Michael Edwards. I think he was in the away end at one of the Liverpool games. This was like when Salah was still quite early on in his career. He said, so I had a chat to him. He goes, well, what else is enjoying this chat? He goes, and he basically said, he was saying to Michael Edwards, you never knew he was going to be this good. You knew he'd be good. And apparently Edwards went, we did. He said, we didn't know he was going to become, breaking world records and all that sort of stuff. But he said, like, we knew he was good. He said, we also realised nobody else had twigged what we knew. So I was like, that's a good Liverpool's recruitment was back then. Still pretty good. But you'd like another one, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If I had the next Salah, that'd be handy. That'd be quite handy. We'll come to that in a minute. Anyway, and then
the thing is, that game finished 4-0. we went on.
Can we talk about the fourth goal?
At Chelsea? Yeah, look.
Can we talk about the fourth
goal?
The fourth goal's just hilarious. Count gets it. Mascherano runs the full length of the pitch to get down the right wing, cuts it across to Desaina's first goal for Liverpool. Not a bad first goal. He had a good week that week because then he scored against United a week later. When he chips Van der Sar. So that was the best week he ever did for Liverpool. He was shitty for Saturday, but
And credit where it's due, right? Iker Casillas, when he came back in his last season in football, when he was playing for Porto, he got a standing ovation. And he talked about it after. But I'm convinced to this day that standing ovation was for that night.
He was outrageous.
He was. If anyone goes back and watches the highlights of this 4-0 and expect to see, a flowing Liverpool side, we were flowing. It was fantastic. And if it was 8-0, 9-0, it would have been justified because it wasn't a case of was poor finishing. There were the saves that he was making were from good efforts, good shots. That some of them he had absolutely no right to save whatsoever.
Not to play it down, but this is like Champions League final we won under Klopp, where Alisson gets man of the match, and I hear a lot of Spurs fans go, "Oh, but Alisson made 8-9 saves." You're going, yeah, but if you watch the saves he had to make, only 2 were top saves. One was the Eriksen free kick, and the other one was Son's shot when they were 2-0 down. Every other shot Alisson had to make were routine. They were things like
bog standard save.
They were just
in the right position. Yeah,
they were all like, if this is all we've got to deal with, we're absolutely fine. Yeah. These saves, if it finished 8-0 or 7-0, nobody would have complained because it was comfortable. I think you were saying on the post match they were trying to give it a kick as man of the match. That shows how good
apparently, and it's because at the time it was Champions League. At the time was still on ITV, and I can remember. After they'd rewatched the highlights again, the pundits, whoever was in, I think it would have been probably Glenn Hoddle and whoever were in the studio, and they all agreed Iker Casillas should have been man of the match for keeping it respectable. And it was one of those games. He was at least a 9 out of 10 in that game. He was a 9 out of 10 in a 4-0 loss for Real Madrid away from home.
Again, that shows how good Liverpool were when you're going, they won 4-0 and they still say, well, the keeper was brilliant, though, wasn't he? It's not often you lose 4-0 and you think, oh, the keeper's played well. So, Laszlo saying, Cuadrado is one of only 3 players we sent off a Champions League final. Lehmann and Dromper are the others. It's interesting. I don't remember Dromper being sent off in a Champions League final.
No, but I can remember Jens Lehmann being sent off in the final. That was against Barcelona, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what we're Arsenal fans still saying they should have just given the goal and not sent him off. Like that's not the rules, though, is it? Because that was Robert Pires' last game for Arsenal, and he got took off after 20 minutes because of the Lehmann issue. Yeah.
Well, I'm just quickly going to bring something up here, and I just want a quick look at what news is going on in the world of football.
While you're doing that, whatever happened to David Ngog?
Someone in the chat was saying that he went to Bolton.
He went to Bolton, got relegated, and then just disappeared.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that you almost need a pod to sit down with a list of players. It's like a where are they now type thing.
I'll be honest, we can even just do it. I think we should do something like, do you remember him? I think we do. There's loads of players. If we did a list of some random players who play for Liverpool, there'd be loads of you going like, oh yeah, he's played for Freud Kid, there's Ali
I'm
Diarra.
Just having a quick look. Here.
Who never made an appearance for the club, but was there for 3 years, which is also
there's always plenty of them as well. Well, the Ruben Neves deal has gone through. He joins Al Hilal.
Which Ruben Neves deal? The one to
Ruben Neves, £47 million club record deal to Saudi club.
When's he getting loaned back to Newcastle?
Do you know what? That's the alleged fear for a lot of these players. You wonder if they're brazen enough to do it. I think
Chelsea have just rejected Man United's 3rd bid for Mason Mount.
Well, United have backed themselves into a corner now because United have said this is a take it or leave it offer. And I think you've got to look at some of the moves that have happened in this window so far. with Sandro Tonali going to Newcastle for big money, €70 million is a big fee for a 23-year-old who comes from a league and a country where they notoriously don't travel well. You know, he's a good talent. I thought he'd be better at AC Milan than what he's turned out to be. I was expecting a lot more of him when he left Brescia and joined AC Milan. But to me, he's a good player. But we'll have to wait and see if he can do it in the Premier League. He disappeared in the 2 games, this season that I watched in the Champions League semi-final against Inter Milan. He was a non-event. I still think Newcastle are overpaying for him. But what you could see now is that deal could scupper Newcastle looking at James Maddison. And you're starting to see where dominoes are falling elsewhere, that they could scupper deals that they were linked with. So that could leave James Maddison looking for alternatives. It could be a case of Spurs, but whoever goes back in for James Maddison, I can guarantee you are not going to be going in with the fees that that Leicester City were talking about at the start of the window, because the market for him is just narrowing. There's not going to be too many clubs out there desperate to get hold of someone like him. In the same way as with Mason Mount. Mason Mount put all his eggs in the Manchester United basket. Manchester United are notorious for overpaying for players. They've always said, yeah, this is a deadline deal and we're not going anymore. Then you look at what they did with Anthony, you look at what they did with Sancho, you look at what they tried to do.
Because everyone knows they'll come back with a couple of weeks.
They'll come back.
Yeah,
they'll come back because they're desperate.
They actually need to. It'll hurt them for at least a season. Is actually go, we've set that fee and stick to it, or move on to another target.
Yeah.
To show clubs that you mean business. Now, listen, Liverpool have done a lot of things wrong transfer-wise. You may have talked about it.
Yeah.
But they have also stuck the guns with certain things like this, where they go like, well, we've got a figure, we're not going above it. So clubs, and I think long-term, clubs tend to not take the piss then when they go, oh, at 90, well, we're not paying that. So, well, you'll come back for, we won't. And sometimes the clubs are, oh, shit, they won't actually, no. So we need to come back and have a sensible conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone knows United, just keep putting 20 million on, because eventually they'll crack and do it.
Yeah. See, it works out for a selling club, a buying club, to have that policy. When the player makes it known that I only want to go to Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea, wherever it is, that scuppers a lot of notions that selling clubs have of trying to extract larger fees or engineer bidding wars. Because once the buying club makes it known, we have a valuation for the player and we won't go above what we value him at, and you're prepared to move on to your next target, then suddenly those selling clubs become more reasonable, especially when the player makes it known, I'm not going anywhere else apart from that club. So make it work.
Yeah. Thor pointed out it was also Bergkamp's last game. Remember that? He didn't even he didn't get off the bench, did he? In that game. Jake's asking thoughts on the Carvalho move to Leipzig. It's not really worked out for Liverpool. I mean, I guess some of the people have liked to see him get a chance. He scored a couple of good goals for us, but some people are acting like we've left Lionel Messi on the bench. He's a good young player. He needs minutes. My only concern with going to Leipzig is got David Olmo and they've got a few played that sort of 10 position. So I'm a bit like, unless Leipzig know one of them's going, is he not sort of in the same position as Liverpool where you go like, you're behind quite a bit of a pecking order here? So has he just gone from one scenario to another? I personally don't think you ever see him at Liverpool again. I kind of just feel like something's gone on behind the scenes, and it might not be done right, it just hasn't worked out. And it's a bit like, let's shake hands, you'll go. Hopefully you do at Leipzig and we'll get somebody for you next summer. Yeah,
I think you're looking at him. I think it's a good move. I think David Olmo or Szoboszlai could be on the move. They've already lost Nkunku in this window to Chelsea. So they're going to be bringing him in, and he will play. They're in the Champions League as well. Mm-hmm. I think for him at Liverpool, the way we're playing at the minute, he's never going to play in a central role. He's not physically strong enough or big enough or good enough to play in a central role. So the only option that he has at Liverpool is playing on the left wing. And at the moment, you've got Diogo Jota, Luis Diaz, and at a push Darwin Núñez, all
Gakpo.
ahead of him in that role.
And Gakpo can play there as well.
And Gakpo can play there as well. So the options that we had when we signed him, comparing to the options for that position now, have changed. And he's just not on that pecking order. He's below where the others are. He's fourth choice. So for his career, the best thing is to get him the best loan you can, which, in fairness, RB Leipzig is exactly the right club. He will play. There's plenty and the German football, the way German football is played with high pace, mainly counter-attacking, flowing football, might suit his game. It'll boost his value. It will give him minutes. He might come back and be better for it. It's something you can revisit next season as he got a place in the squad. If not, he'll increase his value on the loan, and hopefully you can, flip him for 20, 25 million next summer. At the end of the day, football is a business as well as you hope every transfer works out. Sometimes it doesn't. So the best that the club can do is try to flip him for as best as possible.
Which, I'll be honest, a lot of other clubs do that. You know, I'm sure City, Chelsea, have all had players you got, he'd be quite good. Hasn't worked out, and then they flip him for more than what they paid for him. You go, it is what it is.
And such is life. Not every transfer works. We've got a really decent strike rate. I think it's dipped off of late. I don't think it's been as good as what it could have been. I think last summer was an absolute disaster, as we've seen. But at the same time,
I also think we did. I think we can honestly say we didn't do enough. But I mean,
no. But I think even the business that we did do, we didn't have a plan for it. It didn't make any sense when you looked at what was being done as to how it worked out. Whereas what you were saying beforehand, when your man turned around to Gibbo and said about Mo Salah, like saying we knew he was going to be this good, I don't think the same could have been said about the business that was done last summer.
I think some of them were. We hoped this.
It was hit and hope. There was a lot of hopes in
Núñez has still got plenty of time to do something. I think the Roaring Greens are there for Núñez.
I think this season coming up is
he needs to kick off.
Shit or burst for him. I think this season, if it doesn't work out for him this season, he'll be gone next summer. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised because I don't think it's going to work for him. I just don't. I don't think he suits the way we're playing. I think he gets in really great positions, but he doesn't have the composure of a striker that you need. He doesn't have the finishing composure that you need in the box. And it's all well and good doing it in a Portuguese league where half the league are flaming crap. But when it comes to doing it in the Premier League, where the bottom side in the Premier League will outspend Bayern Munich, you're in a different level of football. And I think Gakpo's come in and Gakpo's ahead of him in the 9 position. I think Jota's ahead of him in the 9 position. And I think that Diaz and Jota are ahead of him on the left wing position. So unless he can make a role for himself playing off the right, or he can do something and reinvent himself in the Europa League, I think his options are limited this season.
This could be one of the benefits of the Europa League. And let's be honest, there aren't
many. It could be, yeah.
But that's one of them. The Europa League has been, for quite a few Liverpool players, a bit of a revitalisation, a bit of a confidence builder, which is sometimes what you need. Listen, I still think Núñez will get plenty of minutes next year. One is Jota can't stay fit. If you think Jota's going to be fit for more than a couple of months and not pick up an injury, good luck, because he's not showing off for 2 years and he can stay fit. So we know that. Diaz, we're hoping, comes back from his knee injury with no real issues. He looked sluggish when he came back from his injury, but it's a big injury. So I think in pre-season, it'd be fine. And ultimately, the question around Diaz is still, can he produce the big numbers that we need? Can he do Sadio Mane numbers? It's kind of what we need him to do. And he hasn't done it yet. Injuries prevailing haven't helped. Gakpo and Salah, I think, are the only two of the front 5 that I could go hand on heart. He'll do well. The rest have all got an injury question, an output question, or a bit of both about them. I'm hoping for Núñez, it's more of a second season syndrome, but quite a few players do when they really kick on in the second season because they're settled in, know the language better, know the structure better. Potentially we get our summer transfer right. That'll play to his strengths. I don't think that helped Núñez at all because he had such a dysfunctional midfield behind him. And to be honest, the front line changed every bloody week. mean, him headbutting players didn't help.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Look,
possibly,
I wouldn't judge him on last season. There was too much changed, and the other side of it is when you lost Jota and Diaz so early in the season, what was left had to play an awful lot of football. It just became functional, just getting. It was turgid getting through games. I still think that you have to replace the minutes that Bobby gave you and the output that Bobby gave you in the summer. I think you have to bring in a player who can give you that flexibility. I think it's silly. It's silly not to. But at the same time, I don't think we can have it all.
No, my gut feeling is we bring in a defender and probably 3 midfielders, and I think we go into the season one forward light.
Yeah.
But
are you calm enough about the summer as it's going? Because I'm seeing a lot of people getting edgy, saying, "Why haven't we got XYZ business done?"
I'm all right at the moment because it's June, end of July. If we're still in this Sam McAllister, the edginess will get there. But I can understand why people are edgy because of last summer was a bit of a shit show. The previous summers we've always done decent business. There's always the question of, I think we always go into every summer feeling one short. Now maybe that's being a fan because you always want more, one more. Yeah. But I always feel we come out of most summers feeling one short. Even the year when we were going for the quad, you felt one light. Hence why we brought Diaz in January, and lo and behold, the squad just looked almost complete. Where you had like Minamino only getting a handful of minutes, but when he came on, he was really looking forward to it.
Yeah,
because he knew I'm not going to get another chance for 6 weeks, so I need to really, improve. So, I do think we need a centre back. I do think we need a defender because even if Matip's staying, I don't think you can rely on his fitness. Gomez, you can't realize it, and I feel like Gomez. I think Gomez is going to be more of a right back cover than a centre back cover. So, I kind of feel you need a centre back. You definitely need at least one more midfielder. I think you need 2 personally. I think you need a dominant one, which I mean. The types of players we're going to, the young, the hungry, but the physical players that we're linked with, which is kind of what you want. Unless there's a bit of a wild card that's coming out there. Listen, let's play fancy football for a minute, Kev. Let's live in the bubble where we're going to buy someone quite excited. The Burrell link, I can understand why it excites people. He's a very good player. I personally don't want him because I don't think Italians coming over into England works. We haven't had many that worked out. Zola, Jorginho to a point, but I still get Aquilani cold sweats about us signing an Italian midfielder.
Talk to me about Fabio Borini.
Yeah, I'm happy to be wrong. I don't mind if we sign one.
Me too.
Brilliant. I love it if I'm wrong. Listen, you know who I'd want. We'd never get it. But I know I know who I'd want. But I don't think it'll ever come off. I also think if he comes on the market, I just think somebody will splash silly money that we won't go near, which is a bit frustrating.
Fede Valverde is one of those players that could become available because of the other business that Real Madrid want to do.
Yeah.
Real Madrid wants Kylian Mbappe, and PSG have snookered themselves with this last deal that he did because he made it known from day one, I'm not extending. They thought they could convince him to extend. He's come out now and said, I will be leaving this club for Real, and he's only going to go to Real Madrid.
Oh yeah.
So Real Madrid can turn around and say, well, we'll take him next season for free. We'll take him now for X fee. Up to you.
Yeah. Which is now listen, this again could be blue sky thinking, this could be the inner.
Yeah. Oh, this is completely living in a hypothetical bubble.
This is so, I'm not saying this will happen. I'm not even saying this is a thing. But you'd like to think in a world where I wonder, have Liverpool got someone like the Celta Vigo lad, Manu Kone, they're kind of lined up, that they're ready, but they're on the back burner for, let's just see what happens. Because if Valverde becomes available, if I'm supposed to be those 2 lads, good luck to you. We'll concentrate on him, and but have them line up, which I think is what we didn't do with Tchouaméni, which was what they should have done was had the Tchouaméni backups, which might have been, we can't get Tchouaméni, but we've got 2, tier down with 2 younger ones that we can get in ready. And then, you're not telling me if we hadn't thrown a couple of young centre mid, it would have done us any harm that season.
Well,
Probably
it didn't
not.
do it. It didn't do us any harm when we brought Stefan in, and you saw
Exactly.
the impact to the squad that having young, fresh legs can have on you.
Maybe having like a Coney and the lads from Celta Vigo whose name escapes me every time.
Vega.
Him. That's him. Having them lined up as they're your backups is we go big on a Valverde or someone like that. We can't get him. We go for the two youngsters and we go down the youth route. Both are fine options because
this is the roadmap I can see how, because one thing I noticed in the week is Real Madrid extended Toni Kroos for a year. He was expecting to be sold this summer. So they've extended Toni Kroos. They're keeping Modric for a year. You've got Tchouaméni. Camavinga wants to play in midfield. You've got Bellingham, Valverde, and probably a couple of others knocking about. So
the only scupper I suppose is if Bellingham does need knee surgery, which is the talk is he does, is how long that knee surgery is going to keep him out for. Because that also could influence whether.
Well, he hasn't had it yet, so I'm thinking if he needed surgery, he'd have had it by now.
You'd have thought so.
Yeah, they wouldn't be waiting. They'd have literally last day of the season, they'd have just done it. You know, or as soon as the deal was done, they'd have done it. But the other one is Tchouaméni. I think that Carlo Ancelotti wants him out of the club. And I think that we won't go anywhere near him, given what happened over Christmas at Real Madrid. As talented a player as he is, if he's got a chip on his shoulder about being the big I am, that won't sit with the squad, and that won't sit with Klopp.
The talk is also that he's implying he's made it known that he wants to fight for his place. He doesn't want to leave.
Fair enough. He doesn't want to leave. And in fairness, once you're at Real Madrid, the problem always tends to be how do you get someone out if you need to? Now, they did it with Kovacic with Chelsea. Do you remember? Where Kovacic at Real Madrid was doing okay, you know, and then Chelsea, he became available. Chelsea went in and got him, and he was really good for Chelsea. You know,
That's why City bought him.
Yeah, so you got to look at it and say, I would never say never that Fede Valverde couldn't become available, but I think if he did become available, you could see Man City looking to bin Bernardo Silva straight out the door. And Man City would be all over that deal.
I think he's going already, regardless of if they can't get Valverde. I think they've already got a plan to get rid of him anyway.
Yeah, it's a case of would Real Madrid sell to Manchester City, knowing that Real Madrid want Erling Haaland down the line.
That's what I mean. But also, isn't the talk of Erling Haaland? He has a clause that comes live next summer. So in a nice possible way, City can't stop it.
Yeah, we'll see on that one. But I just think that there's a possibility. I think there's a roadmap where Fede Valverde becomes available.
He's perfect for what Liverpool need. He plays an 8, but also the thing a lot of fans have talked about is we haven't really got to cover wide right. He can do that, and he's done that in Champions League finals, and done that role perfectly. So, again, Klopp loves a multifunctional player because that's what we go for. We offer a lot of multifunctional players. I know people are obsessed with specialists and why do you offer multifunctional players? It's one way of doing it if you haven't got loads of money. You find players who can cover a few positions. Plus, it makes you more tactically flexible. So you don't have to rip it all out. You know, McAllister's a bit like that because I think that's why we bought him is he can play 2-3 positions quite well. So it means you're not tied down to we must buy this type of player now for him because you can buy a few different options and go, well, buy another left-sided midfield if you want. McAllister can flip to the right and he's just as good there. That's what you want.
We're going to wrap up in about 5 minutes. Quick question.
Go on.
I'll ask this to everyone in the chat as well. Do you bring a right back in and play Trent solely as a midfielder next season? As one of your 3, either your right side 8 or your double 6? And you go out and get a right back, a proper right back. And I would say to Trent at 24 years of age or whatever he is, going forward for the second half of your career at Liverpool, you are now a midfielder. Bayern Munich did it with Joshua Kimmich, and Kimmich hasn't looked back. Can Trent do that role?
I would buy a physical defensive right back. I would draw when Gomez was fit. And I would say, and I heard something off the wrap, and I sort of get the logic, and it makes sense, is perhaps if you go to Brentford away, you play your big physical defensive right back and go, right, you just got to head everything clear, and you give Trent his opportunity to be able that suits his game. Whereas perhaps if you play in Bournemouth at home, you go back to your flying fullbacks, right? Trent and Robbo, you do both, like you used to. I quite like the idea of a defensive right back to give the option to flip between the two. Because I don't see Trent doing midfield all season. I think it's good to have the option. Again, horse for courses and a bit of tactical flexibility, which I do think is why we keep getting linked to centre-backs who could play right-back. Now, I'm not saying they're going to happen, but Pavard, Timber, that profile player makes sense because they can cover both. And then you've got the option of certain games we're going to go with that, certain games we're not. So I would, but I wouldn't say that means Trent in midfield all season. It just gives you the tactical options of depending on who you're playing. That's why I would do it.
Okay. I mean, the thing is, I think it's got a split opinion. And I think for the player, because I think that tactically, the way that we're playing an inverted right back will get found out the longer we do it. And
lots of clubs do it, though. City do.
No, they don't.
Inverted right back.
No,
Arsenal do the inverted right back.
Not from right back, they don't. They do it. City do it from centre back, and they start with four centre backs.
Zinchenko does it from left back to centre mid,
and Arsenal are still finding flaws with it. Arsenal can still be got at.
I'm not saying it's not flawed, but it's not like it's not a new thing that not everyone does. And again, I think it's who you're playing. I think it's who you're playing. So I don't think maybe when you're playing like a Southampton, maybe when you're playing the Villa, the way the players they have, you don't play that system.
No, I just think my biggest problem with it is you burn them out. I just think he's got to do too much running. And it's not just him. I think you burn Konate out. Having to do that many runs to cover out into the right wing to the opponent's left wing while Trent is getting back from an advanced midfield position. I just think long term you'll wreck him.
But maybe that's why you bring in a defensive right back. So sometimes you're going to go, Trent's not even going to play. Because I'm
convinced that there's 25 games a season where we play sides that park the bus, and in those games, I play him in midfield.
That's what I mean.
In those games, I play him in midfield.
But then other games, you don't need to. But
yeah, I'd like the option. Let's put it that way. I'd like the option
because that inverted system also only works with a fit Trent and a fit Konate. If you haven't got one of those two things, it doesn't work. Because none of our centre backs are pacey.
Tom is making the point there that if where is it? If Liverpool and Klopp do this, it's admitting that Southgate is a footballing genius. The thing is,
he played
for England
against Malta.
and you've got to look at the players.
Malta.
No, it's
against Malta.
You're playing against Malta. Malta are a side who play 5-4-1. And who spend their entire international footballing career defending. So they're good at it. So what I'm saying is those kind of games that England play against Malta, Liverpool will play 15 to 20 of those games every year. And they're playing against sides who will play a bank of 5 with a bank of 4 or flip it, play 4 at the back with a bank of 5 behind the ball and look to play on the counter. Those are the type of games that Trent can play as one of two midfielders and pick passes for fun.
That's what I mean.
And he doesn't have to worry about going back the other way because you're playing with a back 4 with right back. There are other games where the games are going to be 50-50 possession or 65-30, 60-40 possession where Trent plays an orthodox right back and we play a 4-3-3. And he does his normal role with a normal 8 in front of him where he doesn't invert. I just think that playing that inverted role is a waste of time. Long term, it's a waste of time.
I think it's having the option where you can do it when you need to.
Yeah, I think Laszlo makes a point there. It's Robbo that loses out. You watch Robbo playing for Scotland, and he's up and down that wing, and he's like the old Andy Robertson when he's playing for Scotland.
I do wonder,
and he's really good at what he does.
But is that deliberate also? So then, if you tell Rob to tuck it as a left-sided centre back, he's 29 now, 30.
Yeah.
Is it to save his legs? But then you can say to him, you can still go, but you pick your goes more. You know, he
I
looked
don't
great for
think
Scotland,
so.
but he'd had a 2-week rest before he played for Scotland. So you tend to look revitalised after a 2-week rest as well. There is also that element.
The other side of it when you're playing for Scotland is you're playing with a big guy up front to hit.
Yes.
And in fairness, and I'll give him credit because we'll finish on this in a sec. I watched the Scotland game, the 3 hours and whatever it was, because I couldn't believe they finished that game.
Oh,
I never thought for us. Yeah.
With the pool in the middle of the pitch. It's brilliant.
Scott McTominay in a Scotland shirt. What a player. Whatever it is about, he puts on that Scotland shirt and he becomes like Rob Roy and Robert the Bruce all in one. He's just a mountain from midfield. He's brilliant at that role that Scotland ask of him. You know, I think if he gets a move in the summer, he's one that needs a move in the summer. If he goes to a West Ham or somewhere like that, where the pressure is off him of not playing for a big club, he could develop into a really good player. You know, I think he's a good player anyway, but I think he could develop into a really, really good player. But, you know, Scotland, all credit to him. 4 wins from 4 now. They have a win over Spain already. They have 1 foot in the Euros. And coming out of that group, that's a tough group. You know?
It wasn't the easiest group they were given, to be fair to
them. No, it wasn't. But all in all quiet in the transfer front. There's a lot of stuff going around at other clubs, but actual getting deals over the line, medicals done, have you signed?
It's a lot of talk.
There's not an awful lot going on, is there?
Yeah. Also, look, people can do what they want. You know, everyone could believe what they want to believe, but I do think some of this frustration is also it's what you believe on social media. You know, a lot of it, I still think, is a lot of attention seeking and clickbaited and just joining dots and guessing, and people assume it's true.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of that. And look, some people's guesses are worth listening to. Yeah. But at the same time, it's all part and parcel of the game. It's all part of the fun. Look, you can't take it too seriously. I get annoyed when I see people losing their shit over players that haven't moved anywhere. When they say, why haven't we signed XXX and X player? They haven't gone anywhere yet. It doesn't, you know, or they don't fit, or Klopp, whatever. There's plenty of reasons, but
Klopp said he wants all the signs done before pre-season. Klopp does it every year. Every manager says that. But Klopp, a week later, also said, but it could take 6 to 8 weeks to get the player we want sorted. So he already gave himself a cover of, well, of course, what more early, but, you know, if the right player takes 8 weeks, I'll wait 8 weeks for the right player.
Well, the thing is, when you think about it, when he said that, what was due to happen? You were due to have a European Under-21 championship in that time. And by the looks of it, I watched the game the other night, the Italy-France game. We'll finish up in a sec. Rovella for Italy playing in the 6, really, really talented player. Tonali was okay. Tonali was good. Thuram, Kone, that France side. And they haven't won an Under-21 championship for 35 years.
Which is mad.
Italy have won 5.
Which is mad when you think of the talent's gone through the Under-21s for France.
The last side to win that tournament for France had Laurent Blanc in it at Under-21.
Do you know what I mean?
35 years, you know. So it's a good tournament. Anyone who's watching it, watch it. It's on
UEFA.
You can download the UEFA.tv app on your tablet or your laptop. Or if you can download it onto your TV, they're broadcasting all the games live. You can pick the games what you want to watch and watch them. So good quality games in there. The England game was good the other night. Jacob Ramsey's a ridiculous footballer.
They played a mad formation, wasn't it? 4-2-4. It's a proper.
It was a proper attacking formation, but they could have been 3-0 down inside the first 20 minutes.
That's what I mean. That's
before they got a hold of it.
Yeah, because Curtis was playing as a 6, really, wasn't he?
He was playing as a 6. Then they switched it to a 4-3-3 where he was playing as one of the 8s, as in his normal role that he plays for Liverpool now. Yeah, and he was a calming influence on the ball. He just kept receiving it in good areas, kept moving the ball, and just lending it and taking it back and lending it again.
Yeah,
because he looked really good in that role.
Because speaking of the 21s, I think France are one of the countries where I think they have a deadline of if you're going to do a transfer, it's before this date or it's after we're out. And they just don't allow anything in between. Whereas, the Italians were a bit more relaxed about it. Yeah, it's on early if you want to get your deal done well. So get your deal done well, so. And that's, every country has their option.
Also, their preferences, but France don't.
And it's the Women's World Cup starts next month. So it should be fun.
Yep. Well, you had a good show that went out there the other week. So
the other day. I had Emma Sanders from the BBC, just the two of us. So we had a chat about Liverpool's run to the end of the season, how the season gone in terms of staying up very comfortably, what we thought we needed for the next season, talk about players left, a bit of a chat about the manager, and a big chat about Melwood, because Liverpool now have Melwood back. I mean, we all know we probably should never got rid of it, but they've got Melwood back, and from next season the women are going to be training out of Melwood, so they're having their own dedicated training centre, which is good. It's progressive. It's a sign Liverpool are taking it all seriously. And then we had a bit of a World Cup preview where I think Emma said USA, I think, are favourites. England will probably get to, she thinks, probably no further than quarterfinals, partly because of the run they've got is difficult, but also because there's quite a lot of players for England who have got ACL injuries, which is unfortunate for them. But yeah, it's good show. It's on the YouTube channel now, so give it a watch. It's good. I mean, look, Emma's really good value anyway, and we'll have a little break from the women's show, and we'll have one back probably August, September time, and hopefully I'll be able to get Neil and Philippa on that as well.
Oh, brilliant. So, what are your plans for the weekend? You watching any football?
Not watching any. Well, I am watching football, but not professional football. So I'm having a chill day tomorrow, and then my daughter is at a tournament from 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. So I'm literally sitting in the field all day on Sunday watching my daughter play football. So that's my Sunday really. So
hopefully the weather's good for you.
Yeah, I think there's only a slight chance of rain, so should be all right.
Don't mind too much.
Yeah, so it should be good fun. What about yourself? Any plans?
All Ireland Hurling Championship Sunday, so I'll probably watch that. Formula One, might watch a bit of it, probably won't.
Oh, why?
But no, in general, it's quiet time in sport now. You've got the Ashes start again next weekend, so keep
Wednesday.
an eye on that.
Yeah, that's Wednesday. Yeah. And then it's a big gap then, isn't it, for the third test? Because they play Wednesday. I don't think they play again until the 19th. Quite a big gap. Yeah, because England
they've called up a young spinner, 18-year-old leg spinner.
Yeah, he made his debut in Pakistan, got 5.
Yeah,
so youngest ever English player to get a 5 on debut.
Well,
which is
hopefully
impressive.
They'll give him
now, listen, it's Pakistan, it's a turning pitch, which helps. But it's always quite exciting to see a leg spinner.
Yeah. But look, I think there's going to be a show Sunday night where I'm sure the lads will go through all the transfer stuff, all the gossip that's going around, and just literally dissect the whole bloody lot and have a right good rant at it.
And hopefully by then, mate, we'll have Valverde signed and we'll all be happy.
Happy days.
If you sign Valverde, mate, you me doing the reaction show, because you've been talking about it for weeks, desperate for it to come.
Months. I wouldn't mind a signing like that, just to say it's literally just that gift that goes like your man slapping money down the counter and walking out, and that's the kind of transfer business you want to do.
I was just sitting there with a cigar in your mouth going, I don't really care what you do after that, to be honest. We've got McAllister and Valverde. I'm quite content with life, and look forward to watching that. To be fair, that would also help Darwin as well, fellow Uruguayan.
He needs to get his language skills sorted out.
He definitely does. Thiago can't keep translating for us. He's got 1 more year for doing that.
Exactly.
Right, guys, listen. Thanks for watching. Please like the show. Please subscribe. And listen, hit the bell icon. And we'll see you guys all very, very soon. See you later.
See ya.